Now, following postponement after postponement after postponement, the ANC Women's League has finally elected its top five. At the very top of it is Sisisi Tolashe, elected president, beating Tembeko Mngunu and former league president Batabile Dlamini. So what does it actually mean for the ANC Women's League? It was their 13th national conference this last weekend. Well, let's get the thoughts of political analyst. It's Sanet Madonsela Solomon joining me this morning. Sanet, hello to you, and I appreciate your time so early on a Monday. As well, just give me your overall thoughts then for a second. First of all, it getting underway after all these delays, it seemed to be fairly smooth sailing through the weekend.
Hi, Garrett. Thanks so much for having me. Sorry, I have a bit of a cold. With regards to the overall outcome of the conference, I think it is more favorable for the African National Congress, given the challenges that it has been facing under Batabile Dlamini. I think that this could be a step in terms of the right direction, given that this faction is aligned to the Cyril faction as well. So I think overall that this would be a good step in the right direction in terms of the upcoming 2024 elections. And given that the ANC Women's League plays such a great role in terms of getting the female vote, I think that this was a particularly good move in terms of the delegates who did vote. And I do think that she may have the ability to attract a wider audience of people. I think that she may have the ability to actually gather the numbers. It will just be a matter of how they actually decide to strategize in terms of the upcoming election. So I think that this could be a good step.
It certainly could be. I think just to have it up and running the way that it should have been all these years. But many people are asking, what's the relevance of the ANC Women's League at the moment? Because there were so many postponements after postponements and all the infighting as well. How do you feel they could start to recover and try and get some credibility back?
I do think that for a large portion, the Women's League has been ineffective in that it hasn't had as much support. It has been dysfunctional. I don't think that it really, I know they've been talking about having a policy influence and so on, but I don't actually think that they've had a policy influence. So I think in terms of having new leadership, this would be a great opportunity for them to restructure, figure out what it is that they particularly need, and actually weigh in. But I would say a great start would be the start of August. I mean, it's Women's Month. Why not start out by actually reintroducing yourself to the public, telling them what it is that you are planning, trying to appeal to female voters, trying to reestablish yourself, also giving a gendered lens to most of the challenges that are facing the country, because whether we choose to acknowledge it or not, there are gender dynamics when it comes to the electricity crisis, the unemployment, and so on. So it would be nice to have a female input in terms of that. So that would definitely be something that I would say would be a good start. After that, I would actually say try to integrate yourself a little bit more in terms of the ANC, try to be more visible, try to be out there and so on, so that people become more familiar with the Women's League on the ground, because I do think that they don't have as much of a support base.
So how do they now begin to raise that voice as well? Because even the ANC president, Cyril Ramaphosa, over the weekend saying that they need the ANC Women's League to help them at next year's elections. I think the actual saying and the actual phrase is help us win the 2024 elections as well. Do you get a sense that they're going to be in a position to actually help the ANC do that? And how do they try and integrate in with the parties, the main parties, top echelons, considering the debate a couple of years ago about having a female president? Yet currently still we have a male president. How much do you think they're going to be able to help next year?
I think that if the Women's League position themselves well, that they actually can have an influence. If you look at the current statistics in terms of people who are registered, there are more female individuals in the country registered than there are males. So that would be a good start. But I don't think that the Women's League has the kind of traction at the moment. There have been a lot of questions in terms of the relevance of the people who stood for those respective positions. There have been a lot of questions about actually trying to get the youth out to vote, because that's a big vote. And the fact that some of the candidates who actually got elected into the positions are actually a bit much older than what the current dynamics would call for. I think that's also a challenge. So I think that it's a good start in terms of just moving away from controversy, but I don't think that it is as relevant as it could be. But I do think that the Women's League has the ability to then make use of the younger members to try and get the rest of the public to come out and vote. I don't exactly see them like playing a major role in terms of the 2024 elections unless they actually already have plans that haven't been shared with us, unless they actually have a great marketing strategy, unless they actually have a great campaign strategy, which I don't foresee. So I think that the incoming chair of the Women's League has a lot, or incoming president has a lot to do, but I don't see that it happening. And I also don't see any of the female leaders who are currently elected going into the actual ANC and winning. If we look at the ANC as a structure, it tends to be more patriarchal, whether people would like to acknowledge it or not. The deputy president is not a woman, the president is not a woman, as you've rightfully mentioned, and so on. And they tend to use a top-down approach in terms of leadership, where the actual ANC gives instructions and all of the other structures have to fall in line, and so on. And we've also seen that there is a bit of punishment in terms of acting or stepping outside of the party lines. So I don't think that the Women's League, and I also don't think that the Youth League, for example, would be given the opportunity to weigh in as much as they would like to, even if there were amazing ideas, even if there were amazing suggestions.
Just as I start saying goodbye to you, what's your view then of Sisisi Tolashe? Because beating out Baleka and Mbete in this case as well. I'm sorry, Batabile Dlamini in this case as well. So what do we know about the new president?
I think that she has obviously less controversy, if we could start with that. I think that actually think that the entire structure respects her. She had a majority of the votes. I think she is perceived to be less of a problematic person. I think that she does have a bit of an influence in terms of the existing ANC, like the main like structure, which is obviously something that's very good. Just overall, I think that she was a better pick in terms of the other candidates. I think that she does have the ability to steer the Women's League in the right direction. I just hope that the actual mother body would allow her the opportunity to do so, because we have seen interference in terms of the ANC, in terms of the Women's League, and that has unfortunately had a negative impact on the Women's League. So hopefully this time around they would allow the leader or the president of the Women's League to actually take precedence over the body that she governs, and also to give her more influence so that she can actually decide what the structure's main focus will be, where they want to go, and so on. But I think that at this point she has an open slate. She can decide where she wants to go. I think she can decide which direction she'd like to go in, and so on, because I think that the Women's League has been in such a disarray for a very long time that it basically just gives her free reign. And
on that free reign, I'm curious, sorry, as I say goodbye to you in a second, because you mentioned the Youth League earlier as well, and I can't help but wonder about the age of those who are still leading the ANC Women's League. What's your take on it still being, respectfully, an older demographic within the Women's League?
I think that it would have been nicer to have younger people. I think there are amazing young people who are within the Women's League. They are within the structures of the ANC, but I don't think that they always get an opportunity to actually lead. I don't think that they always get an opportunity to weigh in, and so on. Whether we also choose to acknowledge it or not, the ANC does tend to be a tad bit ageist in its approach, and that you always have to listen to the elders and so on. So once the ANC opens itself up to actually taking on the suggestions of its younger members, I think then you'd obviously see a change. Because if we had to be honest, some of the younger members have fresher ideas, they have a new perspective, they are aware of what's happening on the ground, they can appeal to younger voters, etc. But just overall, they also can come with the academic background and also skill sets that the ANC would need in order to make better policy decisions and decide on its future.
Then for the moment, I'm going to say thank you very much for your time. Great analysis, just breaking down the ANC Women's League conference over the weekend. New leadership, fresh blood, as we're hearing as well. Not quite the youth that some people were expecting to see more of within the ANC Women League ranks, but still very important. They managed to get this conference underway and completed a year or so away from the national elections of next year. My thanks to Sanet Madonsela, political analyst, joining us this morning.